Hey guys, and welcome to the first ever session of a weekly review of the market. So, this is something new that I'm going to start doing on Friday afternoons after closing bell. And what we're going to do is we're going to use my technical analysis style to essentially take a look at what the market did each week and see how some of our old lines may or may not have behaved and see if maybe that can help us glean a little bit of insight into some of the things that we should be looking for moving forward. All right. So the lines that you're seeing right now here on my chart, I went ahead and I marked out all of these last Friday. So I'm going to kind of give you a little brief rundown of what each of these are, and that way we won't have to do this again in the future. We'll just kind of use this as a little go from there. So it's broken down into three time periods. We have the long-term time period, the 90-day or the quarter time period. So it's about 3 months. We have the midterm, which is going to be 1 month, and we have the near term, which is going to be our 5-day look. Now, for each of those time periods, I'm going to be marking out where the point of control is on each Friday. I'm going to be marking out where the value high and the value low is. As well, we're going to use some Wyckoff theory, or just really some support and resistance lines and some channels and whatnot to help us get a better understanding of how the market's moving from day to day and from week to week. So let's go over what we've got here, kind of what we were looking at last Friday before the market opened up on Tuesday. So this is our 3 month, man, I'm saying so a lot. This is our 3 month look, our 90-day look. We had our value way up here. We had our point of control right down here, and our value low was right down here. The first thing to kind of note, I've also marked out with a white arrow where the last day that was showing when I originally did all of these markings. We can see that our Friday activity had really pushed and ignited us well above our value low in the 90-day, as well that preceding activity had pushed us well back inside of our midterm and our near-term value, crushed through the points of control where we had kind of been finding a little bit of consolidation down here. And yeah, it looks like we were finally starting to lead value with price. Just to give you an idea of what was happening before that, with price moving down the way it was, our midterm and our near term value, they used to be up here and they were having a heck of a time trying to catch up with price. So we had what's called a very price driven market as opposed to a value driven market. And generally speaking, price driven markets are going to keep moving until they find that unfair price. And it really kind of seems that we did find that right around here. And that's really the story that we're seeing from the candlesticks. So as we were coming down and we found our first low, right, we ended up putting our channel bottom right about there. We had a nice little bounce off of that, which then gave us our channel high. So in Wyckoff theory, when we're moving, when the market is moving, we're looking for that area where it hits and bounces and sets up its first test or its reaction to the movement. All right. So here was our move. Here was our reaction. And after the reaction, we set our channel top. It came down to test the low again. Now here we can notice that the candles, their bodies were still closing up quite a bit higher than where the low of the day went to on these 4 days. Now, what that tells us is that sellers were absolutely trying to push price down. But the close is going to give us more information on what tone was really set for that day. So when we first found our bottom, close came back up about halfway through. When we retested it, again, when we had that next real test where it broke, look at this. that close actually pushed just slightly above where the previous close was. Then we had another close above that. We had an attempt to sell back through, and then a close that finished way up here. All right. So what that started to show us is that we were building a channel upward, and it was really respected pretty gosh darn well throughout this entire run. And when we got to Friday, that's where it really started to really disrespect the top portion, seemingly hitting an overbought scenario. And we see that as our week opened up, we started to move laterally again. So this move definitely exhausted itself. And if we kind of trace back and look, we can see that where our point of control over these 4 days really started to develop was where we had determined there was a previous area of support from a consolidation area that happened back here in early April, right? No, sorry, early June, late April. That's what I was getting at. Okay. So what was going on this week? Let's start to move our lines around. So our value high is going to move down. Our value low on the 90-day is also going to move down, which is putting us well within our 90-day value area. And in fact, it's also showing us that we are starting to trade right along the point of control of the much broader time frame, the longer time frame. So the market's really starting to come into balance on this longer view. Let's see what we're looking at on the shorter view. So our 1 month value high. Did I catch you? Yeah, got it. There's our 1 month value low. Looks like our 1 month point of control hasn't really moved much yet. All right, our shorter look, our 5-day, 30-minute. Look at that. So our near-term value has definitely moved quite a bit. And our point of control. Let's zoom out a little bit on that. Okay. So what are we looking at now? This is where our channel got disrespected. No, it isn't. Sorry, this is the bottom of our channel right here. Let's give ourselves a few more days. There we go. Okay, I lied. It's actually the top of the channel. Let's extend these a little bit. So the first thing we can really start to notice here, I mean, we already discussed how this really held. So let's look at Tuesday, starting in here, where we found that we had quite a bit of disrespect going on towards the top of the channel, that overbought condition, and starting to enter into our lateral trading area, our consolidation. We see that it moved down, and we did get some pretty good testing down here. On our shorter time frame, we definitely have a support that formed right around here at 4072. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to go ahead and mark that off. Since we're in our smallest time frame, we're going to use a dashed line for this, just to help us kind of remember what was going on there. So as we approached the bottom of the channel and we found that support, we found that bounce, we could see that we didn't actually quite come back up to challenge that previous high right around, what was this? This was our Monday session, right? Because remember, we're looking at the futures, we're looking at the ES. So trading goes on a little bit longer than some of our other securities and tickers that we might be looking at. So this is more of a broad view of the market as opposed to just looking at the SPY. which I'm normally trading. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to mark out a nice little top channel for ourselves out here. Now again, this is on our shorter time frame, so that is something that we have to keep in mind. But what this tells us right here is that when we go into next week, when we go into Monday, we're going to have a little bit more information because we are going to get some trading over the weekend, or specifically on Sunday. And we'll be able to see how well our points of control, especially looking here at our 90-day point of control where we found some pretty good volume, and our near-term point of control, which on the shorter time frame, we've definitely found a lot more volume. This is a much higher volume node. And we want to see if this continues to respect this horizontal area that we've been building. And we're going to be paying attention to whether or not the market starts trying to take out this high up here at 422.25, or if it starts trying to take out this support down here. We've already had 2 bounces and we haven't retested this high yet. So those are some important notes for us to carry forward. Geez, I wish it didn't mess with my time axis so much. So as we're coming into next week, the other thing to consider, the days leading up into this rally, we had a ton of buying volume and very little selling volume. Now, as we got into our consolidation point, it's more important to notice that we had volume greater than some of our volume in our rally, and we had a lot more selling than we did buying. So where is this going to put us for when we open up next Monday? Well, anybody's guess is going to be as good as anyone else's. But what we can take from our technical analysis is we can look at these very prominent lines to see what this consolidation point may be trying to do. Because as it's consolidating, it's going to want to tip, either continue the bull trend and move up to see if we can go test our 200, or it's going to reverse this trend and we're going to come back down and we're going to readdress some of the weakness that we created inside this run. So we have a VPOC here, here, and here. There are 3 or 4 VPOCs below us that we created in this run. And one of the big things is that this dip right here, this push down, this sell down, never actually quite touched our VPOC below us. So that's going to be a short-term bullish flag for us. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we can really pull from this. Well, so here's the narrative that I'm going to be building coming up for next week. We've had a break-in event into our moving average cloud. We've got some testing and some pushing up above, and it looks like the market could be trying to form an accumulation. We're going to be looking to see if we get a break lower than where our channel's support has started to form, and if that break is very quickly corrected and pushed back into our channel. That's going to give us a good idea on whether or not this consolidation is trying to build itself for a break higher. Now, just to kind of give you an idea of what I mean, well, let's look back to this previous area of consolidation. Now, it definitely is a bit wider, right? Not quite as tight. We had a pretty big bounce in there. But after we came down and we tested our support again, we can see that we had a push through that absolutely got smacked back to the upside, and that ended up working as our spring event, bringing us up and through, and then testing that ceiling, which, if you notice, we've closed above both times. Well, actually, every time. We have not closed below that support line yet. So one of the things that we can see, let's look at this previous consolidation area, because this one's a bit narrower than this one. So again, we had our move down, we established our support, we had our reaction, move down, and we had a breakthrough to the bottom. But what we can see is as this sprung back through, it never created a break event on the other side. And consequently, we came back through, we broke again, this time moving back to test the break, and it confirmed, which moved us into the next. So that's pretty much what we're going to be looking for with this area of consolidation here. So I know we put that on our shorter time frame, but since we're also looking at this on a little bit of a larger scale, we're going to use this as our more prominent line, our more prominent feature. So that's going to be the high on 531. So what we want to look for is we want to look for activity that happens near the bottoms of these, and we want to see if this channel completely deteriorates by the time we get into our Monday trading. Because once this kind of just trades through it sideways, we're going to end up getting rid of this channel because it's not going to be something that's in play anymore. For now, it still is. We had some disrespect, overbought, led into our consolidation period. We've had some disrespect to the bottom of it, but ultimately, we haven't completely traded through it sideways yet. One strong argument we could make, though, if we look here, we definitely did close outside of it today. So that could be something to take note and carry forward. But if you want to go ahead and mark these on your own charts as areas that you should be paying attention to, watching, we've got that 4200.91 line at the top there, and we've got the 4070.89 line there at the bottom. Again, that is on our ES. So let's pop over to the NQs real quick and see what was going on with those. We're going to see a relatively similar story. So I'm not going to go into all the great detail because a lot of what we just talked about is still absolutely in play. Or not in play, but it is still a thing in the NQs as compared to the ES. Some of the big differences that we should note, so while our consolidation channels are relatively in the same spot, what we can see here is that the channel is a lot wider on our NQ, and it's been respected much better than than on the ES. Now that being said, we could adjust how we drew our channel, and we could use this as our anchor point since it is between the 2 points that we used for our bottom. So when you look at it like that, when you set it up like that, we absolutely did bust through the channel, and it looks as if we were kind of trying to use it as support for today, but we can see that we did also close below, so we may be moving back into the channel for the NQs. So what we're going to do is we're going to give ourselves another line. Let's see if I remember how to do this drawing. Should be a regression channel. Whoa. Okay. So I guess I don't remember how to do those. Yeah, that's... I don't know what's going on there. All right, we're just going to draw two separate channels. That'll work better for us. Nope, wrong one. Just did that again. Good job, Dan. Awesome job. There it is. There we go. We're just going to stack channels on channels. So now we've got that channel that first formed, pretty well respected. And we've got that secondary channel in which it looks like we may have been holding on to some support. Our horizontal area is a little bit different too, something that we should be noting. It looks like our highs actually started to break through that a bit. And then the other thing that is also a difference between these two, we haven't had any breaches of our longer moving average line yet. Now, this does make sense, right? I mean, the NQ is built up of a ton of tech, and tech and growth and all that fun stuff has not been having a fun time in our recent market. But I do want to point out that the rest of this looks almost identical to what we were seeing in the ES. I mean, we've even got that break well below, that follow-up break, and then eventually the move into the rally. But it looks like the rally was much more of an aggressive Thursday, Friday run instead of having, that kind of buildup that we got in the ES. But nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. All right, we're going to go ahead and adjust our levels here for our NQs as well. And then after we adjust our levels, we're going to kind of discuss what we're going to look for in the NQ levels for action moving forward. And the other thing that you can kind of pick up on as well, our lines are moving similar to how we had to move them on our ES. We can see that we are within value on all three of our time frames. The biggest difference is that on the NQ, we've been using our 90-day point of control as a support as opposed to balancing on it. So that's pretty significant. One big thing to note about points of control, they are high volume nodes. They are areas where buyers and sellers, the most amount of buyers and sellers, reached an agreement on price. And being an area where there was a high level of sellers and buyers who reached an agreement on price, there are oftentimes, wait a minute. Oh, I just messed up. Let's try that again. Oh, wait, no, our 90-day point of control and our 1 month point of control are in the same spot. I didn't mess up. Oh, thank goodness. I thought I was going crazy for a second there. All right, let's try this again. But what I was about to say is that a lot of times a point of control can end up being the start of a new move, can be the start of a new auction. So the fact that we're using 2 of our points of control within our time frames as a support, that's a pretty strong argument for moving up. Now again, remember, this is technical analysis. This is just guessing. Literally, it is literally just guessing. There's no way in heck I could possibly know where the market's going to go. I can simply present you probabilities and arguments based off of past events and how market behavior sometimes works given certain scenarios. Look at that. So that's our near-term value low hanging out right around where those points of control are. Where is that? There's our near-term point of control, because that's going to be moving way up here as well. Boom. All right, let's get our broader look again, just because I like the look of that better. So look at that. we have a lot of price action and activity going on right now. 3 points of control, 3 different time frames. They are almost in lockstep with each other. That's crazy. But the good news is that tells us that that's going to be a very important level for us to watch, right? So for your NQ levels, we're going to say that 12,523.56 is going to be a very important level for us to be watching next week to see how price action and activity reacts, whether it stays above it or whether we end up selling through it and finding ourselves in that channel that is below us. Then on the flip side, we've got a high that's gotten busted up a little bit at the 12,882.96 level that we should also be paying attention to, because eventually the market is going to tip. It has found some balance, and eventually it will tip. There's no telling how long that will take. So from this consolidation area, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9 days before it eventually tipped. From our next one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, of course, these are wider trading ranges. So potentially it took more time for participants to suss out where value was. And now we seem to have found it pretty good. This was too low, at least in the short term. And this was too high, at least in the short term. And now it's looking like this is too low in the long term, this is too high in the long term, and midterm as well. So this will be some good stuff for us to carry forward into next week, guys. And what we're going to do is pretty much the same thing when we look at this again next Friday. And we're going to be looking, or we're going to be trying to see how much more consolidation we ended up getting throughout the week, and whether or not we tested the bottoms or the top, where the tests were, and if they were true tests or if they were false breakouts. So we had a false breakout, true test, true breakout, false breakout, false breakout, true breakout, but then we've got this testing going on. Oh, all right, so there's something that we also didn't have in the ES, right? Let's pop back there for a second. Yeah, okay. So remember when we were looking at the ES, where we had formed our ceiling, we closed above that and kind of made that as a pretty big support on the ES. But on the NQ, that is not the story at all. We closed below that ceiling 3 days in a row. So something else to chew on, something else to think about. They will affect each other, even though they do tend to deviate just a tiny bit from each other. So just things to point out. All right, guys, that's pretty much all that I've got on that. I definitely don't want these videos to go super long, and hopefully in the future we'll get much quicker about our analysis. We'll get much quicker about our breakdowns. And if I see anything cool throughout the week or during the trading sessions that I think merit sharing, I'll definitely try and make sure I remember to mark things like that on these charts so that way we can discuss them and talk about them. But hey, guys, if you like the content that we produce, please give us a like, give us a subscribe. Feel free to join our Discord channel. We're trading live every day. We love answering questions. We're not professionals by any stretch of the imagination, but we have a good time. We work hard, and we're always willing to share educational points and tips and things that have helped us through our journey. But yeah, take it easy, guys, and I will see you next time.